Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavic. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as a craftsperson and an entrepreneur to answer any of your questions. We can talk about any topic, anything that you like. Today, really cool show. Chris Shank, as usual, the education guy, friend of the show from the PCA, is going to join us. Chris is watching right now. I'll pull you up in a second here. We're going to talk about preparing for bad weather, inclement weather, your business, your painting processes, things like that. And then I'm going to walk you through my secret little toolkit, my personal kit that I like to have, and showcase some of my favorite Purdy tools out of there. And as usual, kindest thing you can do for the show is to like the Ask a Painter page, share this show, and get some more like-minded people involved in this stuff here. Any topic, any question you want, type down below. We're going to go through our normal process here, and then we'll get to anything you guys want to talk about. So let's fire up Chris Shank here, get him on. All right. So it's kind of interesting. Very, very apt topic today. So Tina watching?
Hey!
Hey guys, how's it going?
We just want to say, let me turn this way. We want to say thanks for the pizza. Nick Slavic.
Yeah. Oh, you guys broke up there a little bit.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, man.
Okay, and I'm going to put in my earbuds in a minute here, but we just wanted to say thanks. We got some pizza over here. We've been working together with you, Nick, on the Apprentice video. Chad Shermer is the man, and Chris Bramer.
That's the man right there.
So I don't know if you're hearing an echo right now, but we just wanted to say thanks for your thanks for the Apprentice video, which is going to be coming out soon, right?
That's absolutely right. I'm so excited about it. In conjunction with you guys, thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm walking to the back. I just wanted to show everybody that. Can you hear me okay, or am I echoing?
I can hear you, man. We're on a slight delay, but when you put the earbud, it should be okay.
Okay. Hold on. Where are you
Justin's
at?
a man sick. Michael, thanks for watching. Love you guys. And also, I would love a topic suggestion or question, Michael, and for you guys get a second.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you? Okay. It's always like a couple second delay, but we wanted to say thanks. So everything's good. We're not delayed anymore.
I think we're good, man. We're good to go.
Okay. So again, a reminder that we're excited about the Apprentice video that's going to be coming out. Does anybody know about that? Am I not supposed to say anything about that?
No, and you know, I've for people who have seen me in person at expos and speaking arrangements for Sherwin-Williams and other things, people have seen this 3-hour master's class that I do about how I solve the labor crisis. Like in the county that I'm standing in right now has about 2% unemployment, and I just had 38 applicants for my last position a month ago. So we've solved the labor crisis here, and it's my way of giving back to the community, saying, here's what you can do too. It's data, action points, science, experiments, everything else.
I just got off the phone with somebody in Florida who was saying that the labor crisis is really bad in Florida.
What's very interesting is that I call BS on everybody around the country who says, oh, I just can't find any good people. Florida might be the exception. No, seriously, I've been down there and I've physically spoken with contractors in Florida, and they might, listen, still no excuse. There are still people around, but from what I saw, it is a little more difficult there.
It can be difficult. I mean, some places have more difficulty, but everybody wants some idea of what to do next. Yeah. And so I think it's called the Modern Apprenticeship. And part one we didn't know it was part one, but you had kind of started out this conversation and you did some presentations about it, and you've traveled around talking about this. That was given last year, but we put it on just kind of a shortened version of it on video. So I know people still can request for you to go speak, and you still give that presentation. And at the expo coming up in February, you're going to be giving part 2 of this modern apprenticeship, which involves what?
So now that you found all these decent human beings, you've gathered up all the people you ever want, how can you not go bankrupt employing them?
Exactly. Okay, good.
And
so,
I should mention real quick, I was crunching some numbers the last couple of days in preparation. I'm gathering all my data and stuff, and I doubled my net profit in the last 3 months based on the plan that I put in place after you have all these decent human beings. So just like everything else you expect out of me, this is not like, hey, just work harder, do better. It's like, I got science, I got data, and I love to share it with other like-minded people.
I love it. So you're talking about how to find good people and what to do with good people. So we're putting that out on video. It will be out. We're actually scheduling that right now, and we're talking with you about it. We're going to do some workshops next year. So really excited about getting more of this information out. But I know you're waiting on the PCA question of the week, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you do to prepare for bad weather?
How apt, how appropriate is this? Because it was 39 degrees here this morning, and you're starting to bump into that. You can't paint outside weather here in Minnesota. So number one, watch the weather. I check 3 forecasts every day, and they're obviously not that accurate, but you can get the trend. When one forecast says 41% chance of rain, you can kind of feel what their 41% chance of rain means to you. So get a trend going like that. Obviously, use your time wisely. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week are going to be sunny. The rest is iffy. We're not canceling. We're postponing all interior projects, taking the whole company outside for 3 days,
Oh, wow.
and then going back inside towards the end of the week. You can modify your coatings. Certain big national brands have coatings that are a little more moisture resistant than others. Sherwin-Williams Resilience is always the one we talk about. And then number one, probably the biggest thing is watch your moisture. It is horrible here. If the wood that you're coating, if the siding, the substrate that you're coating isn't below 15% moisture, you can wreak havoc on these houses, because it's not like this paint's ever going to dry. If you get a day like this where it's 46 degrees, humid, and there's no breeze, your paint will stay wet all day.
Wow. So what about, okay, so that's the short term. What about longer term, getting ready for winter?
Oh boy, that's oh man, Chris Shank. So I only market my company 5 months out of the year. We start going like October, November, December, January, February. And then after that, the summer leads start picking up. If I do no marketing, my jobs will dry up probably late December. And then January and February are very tough to schedule if I'm just waiting for random people to call me organically. So starting September 15th this year, I kind of gauge my leads. I put a 3-legged stool, a 3-pronged approach marketing plan into place to generate leads. And it's I can't say it's an overwhelming success, because we've only done it for 2 and some weeks now, but noticeable increase in leads, so that I can keep my young people working. We can keep training, and then we can keep all these, I think I have 3 people who have young babies, 3 workers who have young babies in their house, and I do not want to lay them off ever. I want their families happy, full paycheck, overtime if we can do it, right through the holidays.
Right. Okay. That's really good. I think people can really learn from that. I mean, it's always scary, I think, for companies to know what to do next. And I don't want it to be a scary thing every single year. Do you feel like you've gotten past that point where you're feeling some anxiety about the coming seasons?
Yeah, so 13 years of business. We might even be jumping up on 14 here in December. And this is the first year where I feel like identified a problem, maybe found a solution, tried it out, got some good results, and we're feeling good. So, this is the first year we've passed the point in my business where I can just rely on organic leads and people to just randomly call me. There's always going to be that base. About half of my business, maybe 60%, is made up of that. If I want to grow anymore, I have to force those leads. I have to somehow generate them myself. And this year, I had to do it, or we weren't going to have work. And so far, so good. I mean, it's never going to be easy. We should always say that, right? It's one of my favorite things to say. This is hard. And when people have a Christmas tree up in your house, they do not want me in their house as well. So it's one of those things where very tough. But I feel really good about this winter.
Cool. Well, thanks. That was some good answers. Now we're excited to see the rest of your show.
Hey, buckle up. 3-4 hours of wire brush talk is coming your way. So hang tight.
Yes, that's all I wanted for today.
First off, love you guys. Thank you for all that you do. This modern apprenticeship video is awesome. It's the most highly produced, well thought out thing that I've ever done. And it's basically because of you guys and your skills.
Well, again, thanks to the people who helped to make that happen, Chad Shermer, Chris Bramer, and obviously the content is yours. So excited about it. And thanks for having me on today.
You're the best, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.
All right, guys, here we go. I am going to walk you through my some of my personal toolkit here, focusing on my Purdy stuff. I carry around, I love uniformity, so this cream-colored canvas matches all my uniforms, my stuff, lots of pockets. I try to keep all my tools and stuff like this. I just think it's cool when you walk up to somebody's house, everything's organized, you look good. So we're going to talk about my Purdy stuff today. And I've been a long-time user of this stuff. Peter, we'll get to your question in just a second here. Anybody who's got a question, a comment, anything you want to talk about, type it below. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite tools, and then we're going to get to your stuff here. So I should tell you that all these Purdy tools, Purdy, friend of the show, underwriter of the show, wanted me to focus on some of my favorite items from their catalog. I should let you know that these are available Sherwin-Williams, Menards, Amazon, and other Purdy retailers. Anywhere you can get them, you're going to find these everywhere, no matter where you live. Also, these tools are really cool because when you look at, everybody knows how sturdy and stuff these are. They have something called a full tang, and a full tang is basically this thing here. This beautiful piece of stainless steel goes all the way through the handle and connects to the end there. So you get a lot of leverage and a lot of strength, and rust resistant, and that's where a lot of that nice stiffness and longevity comes from. So I'm just going to kind of strategically walk through this stuff here. Phil Klein, painter friend from Iowa, thanks for watching. And let's start talking about some of my Purdy stuff. So first of all, constant improvement is my second core value in my company. Trust is number one. Constant improvement is number two. You didn't think you could constantly improve the wire brush, but they did. Purdy has a really cool thing, which I'm a fan of. You can see the actual stainless steel bristles crisscross, so that when you're going back and forth on something, it gives you a little bit of leverage. Some are pointing towards it that help remove something, and then when you pull back, some are pointing against it. So again, I am a huge fan of innovation, huge fan of constant improvement. Didn't think you could improve a wire brush. This definitely does. And I will tell you this, an often overlooked sort of feature of this is the long-handled wire brush. We got a short-handled wire brush here. These handles are extra long because that gives you extra leverage. There are times when you need one like this for detailed work like this. You can also put a handle on it like that, or a stick or a pole, which is good for floors and walls and things like that. There are times when you need to grab something like this, but then there's also times where long handle, that gives you so much more extra leverage, and you can see that that's a through line. There's some of these other tools, including the scrapers, and you have no idea how much hand fatigue that stops when you got that nice long handle. Comfortable grips, rubber grips, almost like a trigger grip on this guy here, and super comfortable. And for anybody who's ever scraped an old farmhouse in full RRP protective gear for days on end, you know that your hands can lose it real quick. So these are super helpful tools here, and they give you enough room too to put two hands on them like that. Also, this is a really good one too. If you're covering a large area, a lot of times what we do for commercial metal doors that are really rusty, instead of taking the short-handled wire brush like this and going to town on a big, flat, 3 foot wide by 6 foot 8 inch door, you can take one of these guys here and you can go to town and get a lot of square footage done. Also, again, if you're doing floors, if you're doing metal railings on commercial job sites, which is one of my favorite uses for this stuff, you can also put a pole on this guy, which is really cool because, again, you're saving your knees, you're saving your back, and you're also saving hand strength because you got sometimes a 5 or 6 foot long pole on this thing, and you can be, going to town like this. Also, too, there's a lot of times when you pressure wash a cinder block building, like a commercial building, and sometimes they put the paint on so thick that pressure washing, even with a turbo nozzle and stuff, doesn't get it off. And you can certainly scrape it, but this guy, these bristles are just stiff enough where you can put this guy on a pole and really lay into it like this, and this actually removes paint from cinder block really, really well. So just thought I'd share a few of my sort of experiences here. Eric Horn, Ryan Gorel, thanks for watching, guys. Any topic, any question you want to talk about, type it down below, and we'll get to it after my Purdy stuff here. So a couple of my favorite scrapers. Purdy has the carbide one here, and cool thing about this one is the curved blade. So you guys all know that when you're scraping on something like this, a lot of times the wood's not flat. So when you have a flat scraper blade, sometimes it rocks, sometimes you're chewing up different portions of it. When you have the curved blade like this, the ellipse like that, you can actually move the blade with the wood like that and apply different leverage. And obviously, again, super comfortable handle, which is great because scraping is not the funnest chore to do in the world. And so your hands don't get tired and you stay happy during the day. It's there for you. Also, love these knobs too. Extra leverage. Excuse me, the whole house is sick and I'm coming down with something. So again, you got lots of old chipped up paint on an old farm building or something, and you get extra leverage. You can get that nice wide stance, put it in there, lean into it, and really dig into that stuff and get it off the house. But yeah, the carbides are great. Another cool thing is, you know, sometimes carbides can be a little brittle, especially when you have an old farm building with tons and tons of nails and stuff. A lot of the times, well, each one of my crews carries, you know, combinations of these, but this one especially, super long. They're multi scraper here. Same comfortable handle. This one extra long grip, extra long handle here. You do have the knob again for leverage, but what's cool is that, you know, you have the rotatable scraper blade here. So it's basically got 4 scraper blades. They got a little bit of curve to them, nice and sharp. So when you're up on a ladder, you can just take out your multi-tool, take that out, rotate it, and you got 4 scraper blades up there. And we sharpen them sometimes too, which is good. But these things are powerhouses. I mean, it's got a nice wide little area to scrape paint like that. You can really dig into the walls like that, which is really cool. Now, this is awesome. I know you guys have probably seen this around, but this is one of the coolest things that come around in a while. Again, constant improvement. I'm a big fan. Everybody in my company has these. You know, we call them painter's tool. They're multi-tools. They're 5-in-1, 8-in-1, 10-in-1, 6-in-1. People call them a lot of things. I like to call them painter's tools because they really are specific to painters and everybody knows what you're talking about. This is the next version of that. This is super cool. Light, compact, doesn't take up a lot of space. It's got a, here, I'll show you that again here. So a foldable blade like this comes out. It's like a little compact sort of what we call the painter's tool. And it's a whole bunch of little tools you can do on it there. You know, it's got, if you even collapse it like this, you can use that to pry or do regular head screwdriver screws there like that. All these tools come with little nail sets and little hammers in the back. So again, you know, if you're up on a, you know, a barn and there's a nail sticking out, you can, it's solid enough and it's got that full tang where you can just take that and pound those nails in like that, which is really cool. But these are cool. And I love walking around job sites from other painting companies. And, you know, the painters got them tucked in their pocket and you see the little clip out like that. It's always in the side here. You whip that sucker out like that, and it's such a convenient tool. You know, especially for, these things are great, and we usually carry around pouches around our waist. We call them prep pouches. We issue them to everybody. You know, if you throw these in your pocket, sometimes they can get a little hole on the side or something like that. That's where the foldable tool is just an amazing little piece like that. Nice and compact, throw it in your gear, and you always have it for yourself. One thing, and really only painters and tradespeople can appreciate all this, but you know, you're looking at one of these things and you're seeing stickers on both sides and stuff, and immediately you're thinking like, oh great, we're gonna try to peel that sticker off and it's not gonna come off. And I thought I'd show you, they actually have easy peel stickers now, which is cool. Watch this. Look at that, just awesome. The sticker comes off, you're not left with that, you know, it taken off in little tiny little chunks like that, and it's just an amazing thing. So painter's tools, or what they call the multi-tools here. So there's a whole bunch of them. There's 6-in-1, 8-in-1, 10-in-1. It depends what you want. This one's the 10-in-1 here. Super sturdy. Again, it's got the full tang, the stainless steel that runs all the way through it. This one's cool because it's got, in the handle, a little screwdriver. And that's really awesome. I love that little thing. You know, again, up on a ladder, across a new construction site, when you're away from your tools, you got something that if you just need to do a switch plate or something like that, it's there for you. And again, cleaning out your rollers like that, pulling nails, setting nails, opening things, it's just a wonderful thing. And you guys know, these things last forever. They are indestructible. Just wonderful, wonderful tools. And we even sharpen them eventually. We either use them for another purpose or we sharpen them up again and they're ready to go. And likewise with the 8-in-1, this one's actually got a little hole or a little cutout so you can do hex head stuff, bolts, things like that, which is really cool. And again, lots of leverage, rubber handles, which are always nice too. So putty knives, lots of deep thoughts about putty knives. And you know, I have a very specific set of wants and needs for all of my putty knives. So 1.5-inch flex. This is what I use for filling nail holes in new construction, interior, exterior, things like that. It's just the perfect size. If you take a real wide one, you're putting too much mud on. It doesn't let you get into corners. With this one, I love it. You can have your little tub of mud in your hand. You take some out and you just dab, 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 wipe, dab, 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 wipe, dab, dab, dab. And the flex one is the one I like because if you get the technique down, you can just lay it on there and it leaves you about a 1/16 inch of mud. Easy to sand, things like that. So the flex is, you know, the nail hole filler. The stiff one, one of my favorite uses for the same thing, the 1.5-inch stiff, is a lot of window trim on old houses, old buildings, things like that. A lot of the times when a scraper might be too aggressive or you're doing corners where there's a whole bunch of stacked trim on exterior stuff, this beautiful stiff, you know, it doesn't have the flex that the other one does. It's got a more chiseled kind of end like this. If you got a really soft touch, a really nice touch like this, you could just start shaving paint out of those corners and work into intricate areas. And again, you're not working with a big, stiff sort of thing. This is a nice sort of intricate, precise tool like that. For basic wall patching, you know, usually 3 to 6 inch, but again, for outside, the stiff ones like this, these work magic. And especially inside with the wider ones, what I'll do is if there's a whole bunch of, you know, defects on walls, nail pops, if somebody got a whole bunch of roller fuzz on there and it's not sanding out too well, these things, nice sharp end, stiff edge, what you can do is, you know, you got an interior wall here, it's got a whole bunch of kind of defects, you can kind of just shave the wall like this, and you're not taking off all the paint, you're not taking off drywall, but you're just knocking the tops off of everything like that, and then you come back behind with a pole sander. These also work really, really well for large flat areas outside. You know, like I mentioned, the big wire brush for some commercial metal doors and things like that. If you've got a big area with lots of paint to come off, sometimes these do better than carbide scrapers or, you know, multi-scrapers like that. You can get underneath the paint and just start shaving that stuff off, which is really cool. And for large sort of interior patching like this, you got your 6-inch flex. And what I like about this stuff is painters, you know, how many hours have we logged in with, you know, putty knives and things like that. What I like is that it's sort of, I'm trying to find the right words, progressively flexible. So towards the top, it's a little bit thicker and a little more stiff. So you still get that bite. So the thing's not just a paddle and a flap, but towards the end, it thins out and it gets more flexible. So you can see it's the flex is in the bottom third or the bottom half like this. So it still gives you that nice leverage to spread that mud. It'll spread it even, but you get that nice delicate touch like this. And I especially like them after a couple years of service. They got nice rounded edges, things like that. I've even taken these and just rounded the edges over too, just you know, so you don't nick the wall. But I love the sort of progressively flexible versions of these things where you really feel like you got a substantial tool and you can get some production done too. So love those for interior stuff like that. I don't use the joint knives much outside for any of that stuff. The flexible ones are just perfectly made for inside drywall, mud, patching, spackle, things like that. All right, folks, that is about it for me as far as some of my favorite sort of purdy paint tools here. All those things get stored lovingly in my beautiful little pouch here. And let's see if we got any questions. And any topic, any question you guys want to talk about, you just type it in down below. Bo, Tyler, Crystal, Holly, production manager Holly watching. Peter John, how important do you feel it is to market to your clients that your business is environmentally friendly? So interestingly enough, if you look into a lot of the stuff we use, we don't really use a lot of toxic stuff. The stuff that would be considered toxic or caustic or non-earth friendly are a lot of the industrial and commercial applications where you just need it. Where if you don't use it, you're really going to do a lot of harm to something. If you use a, you know, zero VOC water-based super eco-friendly paint on the outside of galvanized steel building or something, you may not get the best results, and you may actually be having a whole bunch of flaking paint now on the ground and things like that. It may not wear, you may create maintenance issues later. So you still have to use some oils, some alkyds, some hybrids, some things that are pretty caustic. I think probably the least environmentally friendly stuff we use in recent history was an aliphatic cured, moisture cured product we use on the inside of a car wash, and it was stinky. but it's the toughest stuff ever. It's a beautiful gloss. We do the inside of a car wash, and you can imagine it's hot. It's more than 100% humidity because it's just running down the walls all the time. And that keeps the block from actually rotting, the concrete block structure from rotting. It's a beautiful, beautiful moisture sort of barrier like that, and wonderful product. You just got to take the right precautions, and keep everybody healthy. But to my clients, what happens is we talked about the VOC, the volatile organic compound, a show or two ago, and you have to be kind of a sleuth to get to the bottom of what your clients are looking for. So normally when a client calls me up and says, hey, you're going to be doing our project 2 weeks from now, can you use a zero or low VOC paint? And what you have to then determine is, do they know what a VOC is, and do they want zero, or do they just not want the smell? Because a lot of times, incorrectly, people who aren't as informed as us, who read the technical data sheets, sort of assume that a VOC, a volatile organic compound, is the same as a smell unit. And sometimes they're not mutually exclusive, where you can have a zero VOC paint, but you still have a paint smell. And you have to figure out, does your client not want a paint smell, or do they want zero VOCs? Most of the paint, most of the interior wall paint that you use nowadays, if you look closely, it's either low VOC, zero VOC, Green Guard Gold certified, all sorts of, environmentally friendly stuff like that. Interior paint and stuff like that is not bad at all these days. Interestingly enough, for some data points, when a client says, hey, we're going to build a new home, we want no formaldehydes, no VOCs, no anything, from the drywall to the insulation to the countertops, flooring, everything. And pretty soon when they take a look at the options, a lot of times right now in the market where the science is catching up to quality and price and all that stuff, a lot of the no VOC super earth friendly options aren't as high as quality as some of the just standard products, and not even caustic or dangerous products. It's not of the quality of a lot of standard products, and it costs more. So I'm not opposed to any of that stuff. I just want my clients to make a conscious, rational, well-informed decision where if they say, we want the most insanely eco-friendly house on the planet, number one, it's going to come with some added labor because those products are usually a little bit more difficult, or you actually have to, difficult's not the right word, you just have to do some other techniques. You have to keep up on them, you have to maintain them, you maybe have to recoat at a different interval. So I don't necessarily market that. We try to market the quality, and we have the option of doing eco-friendly, water-based, low VOC, zero VOC, environmentally friendly options. So Peter, I hope that helps out. It's just like everything else, it's a little nuance. It's not usually the light switch question on off. So Connor, Phil, oh, happy Friday, Phil. Love Phil from down in Iowa. Brian Young, thanks for watching, man. Eric Horn, Ryan Goro, good afternoon to you too. Kyle Martin, oh man, love watching the pictures of your family and stuff, man. Good job over there. And good luck to all you guys. Cynthia Reynolds, thanks for watching. Amy Kovac, love all the tips, like rounding edges. Yeah, if you're too impatient to wait, and these are like, I've been doing this for 27 years, so I have a lot of very distinct thoughts about what I like with my tools. Like a lot of my favorite Purdy paintbrushes are best after the second time you use and wash them, and they just hit this beautiful sweet spot for like 6 months right after that, and it's just an awesome, awesome thing. So I have a lot of thoughts because I've logged, thousands of hours with this stuff, but right off the shelf, this stuff is just amazing. So, oh, here we go. Wendy Anderson, when restoring a historical building, are there many special permits? So that's going to be very location dependent. So here in Minnesota, like when I go restore a lot of my stuff, unless they're in a very tight, distinct historic district with rules, regulations, governing bodies, there's really no permits you have to do. I mean, painters don't even have to be permitted besides general business licenses in the state of Minnesota. And you certainly don't have to get a permit to paint your house. So technically, in probably 99% of all of Minnesota, if you have a historic home, like the big ones I do, the 3-story brick Victorian mansions, you just call a painter up and paint it. And as long as you abide by the EPA RRP lead law, that's probably the most stringent, thing in with historic regulation. And now if you're in downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul, downtown LA, downtown New York, there's going to be preservation commissions, there's going to be rules and regulations and things like that. And it's not necessarily a permit, it's more of a process that you have to go through. But I will say this, and this is something that I have very deep thoughts in, and I'm very sort of not troubled by, but I have a lot of thoughts about, which is the EPA RRP lead law, which I am all on board with. The only problem is, two things happen. All painters everybody who disturbs a house, carpenters, painters, electricians, everything else, if you disturb a certain amount of square footage, technically you're supposed to abide by the RRP lead law, which is, you have to take personal protective gear, you got to safeguard the area, you got to collect all the chips, there's a way to clean it to get the lead dust off, there's testing, there's paperwork, and none of my clients know that this law exists. So I'm abiding by a law that takes me more effort, more time to do a project. Yes, it's safer, which I agree with, but it's an unfair advantage to guys who follow the rules, because 90% of all painters out there don't even know this law exists, and they're just going about it, and their prices are all less than mine because they don't have to abide by all this paperwork and regulations and things like that. And again, it's one of those things where we do it, we almost feel like we're at a big disadvantage. Not going to stop us from doing it because it is the law, and we do actually feel that some of the things are better. Could go with a little less paperwork, but that's kind of what you get with it. But that's probably the most, as far as permitting kind of stuff goes. Technically, any painter who paints a house older than 1978 has to at least test for lead and then possibly abide by this law and paperwork. So if there's a piece of information that I could give to every client in the United States, it's that if you have a house older than 1978, at least know this exists, and expect your painters, contractors, drywallers, all these other guys to abide by it. Oh, Peter John, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. The weather is turning here. We are planning for exterior weather here and special exterior stuff. We're trying to finish up, maybe 6 to a dozen decks and pergolas and outdoor projects. So these great customers of mine don't have to wait another 6 or 7 months to get it done. We're going to try to finish up a whole bunch of houses. And then basically my whole company changes over, turns over like a frozen lake in Minnesota, where we go completely inside interior for 6 to 7 months. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. We do a gear inventory. We issue new uniforms, clean uniforms after a long summer, and we get after it. And this is a big part of it here. General tool issue. We have a standard kit, and my people get this stuff here. So, Phil, what's your current strategy in preparing for the downturn? So, number one, don't care. Number two, if I knew when the downturn was, I would short the stock market and retire one of the richest people ever. And number three, if you run a good business practice and you got a good marketing strategy, you're going to feel something when it comes, but none of us know when it's coming. None of us are really sure when it's happening. A lot of times you can only realize it in hindsight or during the thick of it. And by that time, it's too late to prepare. So I think sort of general preparation is always good. Humans aren't that great at it. It's like, hey, make sure your sump pump's working, make sure your gutters are clean so your basement doesn't get wet. And when do people care about that stuff? When it's downpouring and their basement has water coming in. So again, that's human nature. It is what it is. So I'm like you, Phil, lots of deep thoughts. I'm starting to hear people talk about an economic downturn, not recessionist, but like, it's got to go. People are just saying it's got to get bad sooner or later. And fine, it probably will. It probably won't be as good as it is right now, but general business practices, save your cash, make sure your people are happy, and consumer confidence is a fickle thing, and a downturn is basically all determined by consumer confidence, which is the most irrational thing on the planet. And we just sort of have to stand here and say, it is what it is, man. And I know we probably think alike on all that stuff, Phil. So thanks, everybody. Jim Callahan, friend of the show, client of mine, and past apprentice. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great weekend. Thank you to Purdy for being a great underwriter and friend of the show here. And have a great weekend.